The Philadelphia Eagles are back in headlines, and not just for their record on the field. There's been a whirlwind of roster moves, injury concerns, and even a bit of drama circling the team, and we're here to break it all down. Let's start with the roster shuffle that's been unfolding behind the scenes. Philadelphia made a couple of notable additions to their practice squad, bringing in defensive tackle Jacob Sykes and defensive end KJ Henry. At first glance, those may seem like minor depth signings, but in the grand scheme of the Eagles' constantly evolving roster strategy, every move counts. With these additions came some necessary subtractions. Cornerback Eli Ricks was released again. Ricks has been bouncing on and off the practice squad, and his recent demotion comes after being elevated temporarily to provide cover for a battered secondary. The Eagles had injury issues leading up to the Buccaneers game, particularly with Adoree Jackson and Jacorian Bennett, so Ricks was called up to plug the gap. But with Keely Ringo stepping up, Perry Nickerson contributing, and Mekhi Garner getting some snaps on special teams, Ricks became expendable once more. This all ties into the chess game that Howie Roseman continues to play. Every week, it's about balancing talent, potential, and long-term value. Another casualty of that balancing act was linebacker Antoine Powell-Ryland. Drafted in the 6th round back in April, Powell-Ryland, often referred to as APR, was brought in with hopes he could become a developmental piece along the defensive front. His college resume was strong. Stints at Florida and Virginia Tech showcased a player who could get after the quarterback, disrupt plays in the backfield, and make life difficult for opposing offenses. Over the last few seasons in college, he racked up 9 forced fumbles and posted double-digit tackles for loss, with back-to-back campaigns of 14.5 and 16 TFLs. His sack numbers were solid, too, with 9.5 sacks and 16 sacks over his last 2 years. On paper, this guy was a menace. But the knock on APR was never about production. It was always about physical traits. He's not the fastest off the edge, lacks elite twitch, and his arm length doesn't measure up to typical NFL edge rushers. And that's where things start to fall apart. During camp and the preseason, he flashed some ability. He even had a strip sack in the preseason finale that raised some eyebrows. But ultimately, it wasn't enough. He cleared waivers, was brought back to the practice squad, and now, just like that, he's gone again. Maybe the Eagles try to circle back later. Maybe another team gives him a shot. Either way, it's another reminder of how brutal the margins can be in the NFL. Meanwhile, one of the Eagles' key offensive weapons is dealing with another injury scare. Tight end Dallas Goedert has long been a staple in Philadelphia's offense, both as a reliable target for Jalen Hurts and as a physical presence who can grind out tough yards after the catch. But health has never really been on his side. He missed practice on Wednesday due to a knee issue, the same knee that forced him to miss the game against the Chiefs earlier this year. He did return to practice on Thursday, which is a positive sign, but given his injury history, every missed snap raises a red flag. The play that re-aggravated the injury came during the Buccaneers game, where he was undercut and immediately limped to the sideline, clearly favoring that leg. Now, the Eagles are staring down a crucial decision. Do they risk playing Goedert this week against the Broncos, knowing they've got a short turnaround with a Thursday night matchup against the Giants coming up? And that game is on the dreaded MetLife Stadium turf, the same surface that's gained a reputation around the league for being unforgiving and injury-prone. When you look at Goedert's numbers, he's been a strong contributor. 12 catches for 114 yards on the year so far, with 3 touchdowns in just the last 2 games. That includes a seam route TD against the Rams and a pair of scores against the Bucs, one coming off an underhand shovel pass and a classic Andy Reid-style misdirection play. His production isn't the issue, it's durability. Since entering the league in 2018, Goedert has missed 23 games due to injury. That's nearly a season and a half's worth of action. And while the Eagles have managed a decent record without him, they're 16-8 when he's not on the field. His absence changes how this offense functions, especially this year, with the tight end depth behind him not exactly lighting it up. Grant Calcaterra and Keelan Grandson don't offer the same blocking prowess, and with the offensive line struggling at times to establish the run game for Saquon Barkley, losing Goedert takes a toll both in the air and on the ground. The eye test tells you what the box score doesn't. Without number 88, the Eagles lose some of their offensive identity. And as if injuries and roster tweaks weren't enough, there's always a bit of drama brewing in Philadelphia, this time involving star wide receiver A.J. Brown. After the team's latest win, Brown fired off a cryptic tweet that raised a few eyebrows. It read, "If you're not welcomed, not listened to, quietly withdraw. Don't make a scene. Shrug your shoulders and be on your way." Fans and media alike immediately began speculating. Was it about the coaching staff? Jalen Hurts? The front office? To his credit, AJ addressed the situation head-on. Speaking at his locker, he owned up to his actions, saying he let his frustration boil over after the game, skipped his media availability, and then made things worse by tweeting emotionally. He clarified that the message wasn't directed at anyone inside the building, not the general manager, not the coaches, not his quarterback. He emphasized that he has open lines of communication with everyone on staff, including Nick Sirianni and offensive coordinator Brian Johnson. And he reiterated what many already know. He's a competitor who wants the ball in high-leverage situations. But here's the thing. Brown's outbursts, while understandable from a passionate athlete, are becoming a pattern. In Philly, where every action gets magnified, a cryptic tweet like that becomes front-page news. It dominates sports radio. It gives content creators a week's worth of material. And when your team is undefeated, those moments of unnecessary drama start to wear thin. You're winning games. You're producing. You're a leader. Why create distractions? Yet this isn't just about one tweet. A recent report from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler added fuel to the fire, suggesting that while a trade involving Brown won't happen during the season, the Eagles could entertain the idea in the 2026 offseason. That feels far off, but it's significant. Fowler noted that league executives believe Brown's relationship with the Eagles' passing game is a bit of a roller coaster. Moments of brilliance mixed with frustration and emotional flare-ups. It's something teams monitor, and when it becomes a recurring issue, front offices start to think long-term. The idea of moving on from Brown would be massive, not only because of what he brings on the field, but because of the cap implications. Trading him would leave Philadelphia with a whopping $90 million in dead money, though that could be softened with a post-June 1st designation. And if there's anyone who can manipulate the cap, it's Howie Roseman. But even with that, it's hard to justify parting ways with a player who has been so instrumental to the Eagles' success. Since Brown arrived in 2022, the Eagles have gone 41-10. That's an elite record, and Brown has been at the center of it all. He's been named a first-team or second-team All-Pro in every season. He's crossed the 1,000-yard mark each year. And most importantly, he's been a catalyst for an offense that has reached 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. This isn't just a good player. We're talking about a game-changer. Still, you can understand the front office's perspective. Constant drama is exhausting. And if it continues, they may decide that no matter how talented someone is, it's just not worth the headache. Especially when you've got a guy like Devonta Smith, low maintenance, professional, always locked in. He's the kind of player that every coach loves because you never have to worry about him off the field. So, the Eagles will ride out this season with A.J. Brown and hope the noise quiets down. But make no mistake, the clock might already be ticking. While the situation with A.J. Brown simmers in the background, there's a bigger focus right now on how the Eagles are preparing for their next stretch of games, starting with a dangerous Denver Broncos team and quickly followed by a brutal Thursday night showdown with the New York Giants. That's 2 games in a 5-day span, and it's going to test the depth, resilience, and coaching of this team in a big way. Let's talk about Denver first. The Broncos come into this matchup with one of the most underrated defensive units in the entire NFL. Coordinated by Vance Joseph, this group is top 5 across nearly every major statistical category, and they've done it with a balance of veteran presence and emerging young talent. Up front, they lead the league in both sacks and pressure rate, meaning Jalen Hurts is going to have to be on high alert from the first snap to the final whistle. Their defensive line is flat-out nasty, and they don't need to blitz to get to the quarterback. That makes them especially dangerous because they can drop more defenders into coverage without sacrificing pass rush pressure. And speaking of coverage, their secondary is a real strength. Patrick Surtain is still playing at an elite level, and with Jalen Barron, Riley Moss, and the recently acquired Talanoa Hufeng anchoring the back end, this is a unit that can take away big plays and force offenses to stay patient. What they don't do well, however, is cover tight ends or contain the middle of the field, an area where Dallas Goedert usually thrives. That's what makes his injury status so critical for this game. The Broncos are extremely vulnerable at the second level, especially with Dre Greenlaw banged up. Their linebacker group is probably the softest part of this otherwise elite defense. And if the Eagles had a fully healthy Goedert, this would be a matchup to exploit over and over again. So the question becomes, do the Eagles risk playing him and potentially aggravating that knee even more? Or do they hold him out and trust the other weapons to get the job done? With that Thursday night game looming and the nightmare surface at MetLife awaiting, there's real incentive to be cautious here. The Eagles cannot afford to lose Goedert for an extended period, especially given how fragile their depth is at tight end and how critical he's been in the red zone the past 2 weeks. And here's another layer. The offensive line hasn't looked like its usual dominant self. There have been moments of miscommunication, lapses in protection, and an inability to establish the ground game the way they want. That's affected Saquon Barkley, who was brought in to bring explosiveness and balance to this offense. But if the holes aren't there and the blocking isn't consistent, it's hard for any back, even one as talented as Barkley, to make something out of nothing. That's where tight ends like Goedert become so valuable. He's a tone setter in the run game. He seals edges, opens cutback lanes, and helps neutralize edge rushers. Without him, the run game loses that extra push, and the passing game loses a safety valve over the middle. All of this becomes even more important with the way the passing game has been trending. Yes, the Eagles are winning. Yes, the numbers look good on the surface. But there's been an underlying sense that the offense hasn't quite clicked the way it did in that Super Bowl season. Some of that is growing pains with a new play caller. Some of it is injuries, and some of it might just be the weight of expectations. This team is loaded with talent, but consistency has been elusive. And when stars like A.J. Brown start airing out frustrations publicly, even if they walk it back later, it's usually a sign that something isn't quite right behind the scenes. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Philadelphia is buzzing with excitement as whispers around the league suggest that Marcus Williams, the rising star whose talent has captivated fans and analysts alike, may be donning the green and white of the Eagles. Sources close to the situation hint at ongoing talks. And while nothing has been officially confirmed, the mere possibility has sent shockwaves through the NFL community. Williams, known for his explosive plays and ability to change the momentum of a game in an instant, has been linked to several franchises over the past months. But the latest chatter points to Philadelphia as the next chapter in his career. Insiders speculate that his arrival could be transformative for the Eagles, who have been searching for a player capable of elevating their game to a championship level. Fans are already imagining the electrifying synergy between Williams and the team's current roster, particularly the dynamic offensive weapons that could complement his unique skill set. The excitement is palpable in the city, with social media lighting up with discussions, memes, and speculative trade scenarios. Local sports bars are already abuzz, and the Eagles' official merchandise sections are rumored to be bracing for a surge in demand should the deal go through. Analysts suggest that acquiring a player like Williams would not only boost the team's on-field performance, but also inject a fresh wave of energy into the fan base, reigniting hopes for a deep playoff run. While the Eagles' front office remains tight-lipped, insiders hint that negotiations are progressing, and an announcement could be imminent. Meanwhile, rival teams are reportedly watching closely, knowing that landing Williams would be a massive blow to their own championship aspirations. In the world of professional football, rumors move fast, and the potential signing of Marcus Williams is already being labeled as one of the most tantalizing storylines of the season. Whether it's a done deal or just smoke in the wind, one thing is clear: Philadelphia is ready to celebrate. The city's anticipation for a superstar like Williams is palpable, And if the rumors hold true, the Eagles might just have secured the player who could define their next era. Stay tuned, because in the NFL, things can change in a heartbeat, and the Marcus Williams story is far from over. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.